Hey everybody, welcome. I am Tiffany with Voices for Independence Fitness and Activities, and I am here to share wonderful recipes with you that you can make right at home. We are in the middle of a series of live cooking demonstrations where we are cooking across America. I am bringing you famous dishes from each state that you can recreate at home. Today we are headed south once again. We are headed into Mississippi, and one of the most well-known dishes there is the Mississippi mud pie or cake. There's two different versions of it depending on who you talk to. Some people make it in a pie pan and some people make it in a sheet pan or a cake pan as well. So it originally got its name because the rich, dense chocolate cake resembles the banks of the Mississippi River. So it's not as old as you would imagine. They first is recorded in recipes in the 1960s and 70s. So it's not that old, but it is still a well-known dish from Mississippi today. So I will go over the ingredients with you and show you all the steps in the making of this cake or pie. There's different versions of it, so I was doing a little research and found the most popular technique. And what they're going to do is they're going to bake a cake, and then there's a marshmallow layer and a frosting that goes on top of that. So I'll show you the creation of the cake, and we'll get that in the oven, and then we will start our frosting for the cake. So what you're going to need is 1 cup of butter melted, which I have done in a glass bowl and put it right in the microwave. If you need to, though, you can melt your butter on the stove top in a pot and then put it in the bowl when you're finished. We're going to be adding a 1/2 cup of baking cocoa to our butter mixture, and we're going to whisk that in. So I'm trying to do it slowly and carefully so I don't get cocoa powder all over my kitchen. It is one of the messier ingredients in the baking world, along with powdered sugar. So we're going to mix that baking cocoa right in. We're going to whisk it in to our melted butter. Start slow so you don't splash the dry ingredients all over. And as you're starting to incorporate that, we're going to add 2 cups of granulated sugar, just our traditional white sugar. Again, if you need or want to use substitutes, feel free. I cannot give any suggestions or recommendations or experience. I have not made the Mississippi mud cake before, so I am following the ingredients and not really adding any substitutes at this time. All right, so we're going to whisk that sugar in, and then I am going to switch to a spoon at this time. So it'll be easier. Your whisk can get a little tricky. I am going to set it right in my eggs because I'm going to be whisking those up here in a second, and they are going to go right into our cake mix as well. So finish stirring in your sugar, your baking cocoa, and your butter, and then we're going to beat 4 eggs together. This has a lot of eggs in it, so you know it's going to be a dense cake. Brownies typically have this many eggs, and brownies are a denser dessert than a cake. So less eggs, a little fluffier. The more eggs, it can be a little more dense of a cake. All right, so those are whisked up. We're going to add those right into our batter. And I have preheated the oven at 350 degrees already. Now, they do say you can either make this in a jelly roll pan, which is a 17 by 11 inch pan, so it's a little bit longer and wider than your cake pan, and it's only about 1 inch high. Or you can still use your 13 by 9 inch cake pan, which I will be doing today, and you're just going to have to bake it a little bit longer. So mix those eggs in really well, and then we're going to add our vanilla and then start adding our dry ingredients. This is only taking flour today, so we're not adding any more leavening agents. No baking powder or baking soda, so again, that's an indication that this will be dense, which is exactly what we're looking for because that's how it's got its name, because it's so dense it looks like the banks of the Mississippi River. All right, so that's all mixed in. We're gonna add our 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and then we have 1.5 cups of flour. You can also, we're going to be mixing in 1.5 cups of nuts of your choice as well. If you have a nut allergy, I'm sure you can exclude them from this recipe. It does not say that it's optional, but obviously you can make it that way. I'm assuming good substitute if you wanted to and you have a nut allergy is you could add chocolate chips to even enhance the chocolate of this mud pie. And we're going to add our 1.5 cups of flour. This is an easy recipe because the butter was melted that we can mix by hand, but you can get your hand mixer out or do this in your stand mixer as well. So once our flour's all mixed in, we're going to get this in our cake pan and get it in the oven. And then we're going to go over the frosting recipe. So make sure you can spin your cake bowl or your batter bowl as you're mixing it in to make sure you get all those dry ingredients off the side. And then we're going to add our nuts in. Woo! Flour's going everywhere. All right, this is also, once you take it out of the oven, once it is baked, we are going to be putting 4 cups of marshmallows right on top. You want to put them on while it's hot so those marshmallows will melt down. You can use marshmallow fluff if you want as well. That was an option. And some put it back in the oven just for a minute or two to really melt them down. So now we're going to add, they say you can use a nut of your choice, walnut, pecans. I'm using what we have here. I have some crushed walnut left over. So we're going to start with that. And if that's not enough, we'll add a little pecan as well. We only need 1.5 cups. And it looks like I have exactly that. So that worked out great. So we're going to mix in the 1.5 cups of crushed nuts. Again, not a specific one. Whatever one you favor. And get that mixed in, and then we're going to put this in a well-greased 13 by 9 inch pan or that 17 by 11 and 1 inch jelly roll pan. All right, it looks like everything's mixed in well, and then I am going to transfer this to our cake pan, which I greased ahead of time, right here for our Mississippi mud pie cake. So get that right in there and spread it over evenly, making sure you get in the corners so it bakes perfectly. And I'm going to scrape this out real well because it's a great bowl to just go right ahead and make our chocolate frosting in. So let me switch this around here. I'm going to get all that batter in there. And I'm going to pop this right in the oven for about 20 to 30 minutes. So again, you're going to want to keep an eye on it. Maybe turn your oven light on when you're making cakes and such. You don't want to open the oven too much. One, it drops the temperature of your oven really rapidly, and also can make your cake fall, which means sink in if it's not fully cooked and at the right time to be taken out. All right, so we're going to get this in the oven. And then we're going to go ahead and make our frosting. So I am just going to switch out my spatula and wipe out my bowl real quick. And then we're going to do our frosting right in the same bowl. And what we need for the frosting is we are going to take a 1/2 cup of evaporated milk. So this is going to be a nice, rich, and creamy chocolate frosting. So a 1/2 cup of your evaporated milk. You can put the rest in the refrigerator in a different container. Never save opened cans in the refrigerator. Once they are open and the air gets to them, the metal of the cans can react and change the quality of the food product. So just a little tip. Transfer to a glass container if you have one. We're also going to add 4 tablespoons or a 1/2 stick of butter softened. I had just set it on my stove top as on my baking sheet as I was preheating the oven, and that softened it perfectly. And we're also going to, being chocolate in our Mississippi mud pie cake, we're adding 1/3 cup of our baking cocoa. Let me make sure I have my right measurement here, because this is going to be a super chocolatey delight. I'm so excited about it, I can't even say it right. Chocolate is my all-time favorite treat. And there is one of my measuring spoons. I always lose them during my cooking demos because I leave them in the ingredients. All right. A heavy-handed 1/3 cup of our baking cocoa. And then we need to add a little bit of vanilla and our sugar. Frosting always uses powdered sugar and does take a little bit of it. So you want to make sure you have enough on hand. This one's actually going to take, oh, that was a heavy vanilla too. I am just so anticipating this deliciousness that I'm rushing my ingredients. All right, we are going to add 4 cups of powdered sugar. So let me open my new bag. I've been making my own. I finally got a chance to make an ingredient run yesterday. But you can make your own powdered sugar if you don't have any at home. Just put your white sugar in a high-powered blender with a little bit of cornstarch and blend away for about 3 to 5 minutes, and you will get powdered sugar. But in the meantime, I am going to add regular powdered sugar from the store, not homemade this time, to my frosting. I'm going to start with 2 cups. I'm going to blend this in, and then I'm going to add more. Powdered sugar is one of those ingredients that will definitely blow all over your kitchen if you're not properly prepared. And even if you are, it still happens. So I am going to tamp down my ingredients and get them incorporated a little bit by hand into that wet ingredient in hopes that it doesn't blow the cocoa powder and powdered sugar all over the place. So once it's a little bit incorporated, I'm going to turn on a low speed. As always, remember, if you have an aversion to loud noises, turn down your sound. Make sure you scrape the sides as you go. And we're going to add our other 2 cups of powdered sugar at this time. Sometimes hand mixers, I like doing stuff by hand as much as I can to begin with, because sometimes even a hand mixers on a low setting can be really powerful. Especially if there's a lot of wet ingredient in it. But as we add powdered sugar, it shouldn't seem so messy. All right, so again, hand mix in a little bit of that powdered sugar to get it wet, and it will be less likely to blow all over, although it's still going to, so be prepared to clean up a little bit, folks. And as we mix, frosting is almost perfect. You want to use a hand mixer when making frosting. You can do it without one, but lots of times you will get some clumps where the powdered sugar has kind of clumped up in the liquid, so it helps smooth it out and makes for that nice glossy, beautiful frosting. Now this is going to be a little bit wet of a frosting because it's more of a frosting glaze in between the two that we're going to pour over our hot cake. And once we put it in the refrigerator to chill, after the cake is done, it will firm up again and it'll be delicious. So that's all there is to it. We have our cake in the oven. When it comes out, we're going to add our marshmallows, and then we will add our chocolate frosting glaze right on top of the cake. So we're traveling across America, tasting all the delicious dishes from all 50 states. Today we're in Mississippi making the Mississippi mud pie cake. I hope you enjoy, and I will post the recipe in the comments below and show you an end result. This cake is going to be taken into the North office at Voices for Independence for all the dedicated staff that have been working in the office during the pandemic. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll be stopping by today to drop it off. Have a good morning.